The world doesn't need more people who are driven by toxic needs. The world needs more people who are free from those needs and can therefore show up authentically, listen genuinely, and persist courageously. That's the kind of person who can create real change. Welcome to the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people all over the world about the importance of kindness. And I am obsessed with how we can bring more kindness into our daily lives and restore balance to a deeply unbalanced world. Every episode, I'll give you 3 practical strategies to create a kinder world, and I'll do it in 30 minutes or less. No fluff, just valuable, actionable content that you can implement in your life immediately after listening to help you actively create a kinder world. There's no time to waste. Let's dive in. What's up, my friend? Welcome to episode 29 of the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. And today we're going to talk about something that might make you a little uncomfortable. We're diving deep into 3 toxic needs that are silently sabotaging your peace, your relationships, and your ability to show up authentically in the world. Now, I want to be clear about something right up front. When I say toxic needs, I'm not talking about legitimate human needs like safety, connection, or purpose. Those are essential for our well-being. I'm talking about the psychological dependencies that masquerade as needs, but actually end up controlling us, compromising our values, and preventing us from living the meaningful lives that we're meant to live. These 3 toxic needs are so common that most of us don't even recognize them as problems. In fact, we've been conditioned to see them as normal, even admirable. But here's the real deal about these needs. They're quietly destroying our peace and keeping us trapped in cycles of anxiety and resentment. Today, I'm going to expose these 3 toxic needs, understand why they're so destructive, and most importantly, give you practical strategies to break free from their grip. Because here's what I know for sure. You cannot create a kinder world from a place of desperate need. Kindness flows through a place of strength, security, and choice. When we're driven by toxic needs, we're operating from a place of scarcity and fear that never leads to authentic connection or meaningful impact. So, if you're ready to identify what might be secretly controlling your life and learn to reclaim your power, let's dive in. Let me start by sharing something with you that might sound contradictory. I want you to like me. I have zero shame in admitting that. I want you to like me as a person. I want you to like this podcast, my books, my keynote talks. You get the point. I sincerely want you to like me in everything about me. But here's the critical distinction that changed my life. I don't need you to like me. The key word in that sentence is need. The first toxic need is the need to be liked, and it's one of the most self-destructive beliefs in existence. Yes, I want people to like me, but if I needed people to like me, then I would do desperately anything that I could to fulfill that need. I would avoid having challenging conversation with people. I wouldn't honor my boundaries. I would constantly say yes when what I really need to say is no. I would allow people to treat me in any way that they saw fit. And worst of all, I would say, do, or be anything that I believed would gain me the approval of other people. And because I'm all about burying my soul on this podcast, let me give you some really painful examples from my own past where I sacrificed my dignity, my values, and my self-respect in hopes of being universally liked. In college, I forced laughter out of my lungs when my dorm mates made sickening racist jokes. Another example is I wrote a long email to a woman who unsubscribed from my mailing list, basically begging her to stay, promising that I would change my emails from that point forward. Another example, which I shared in a previous episode, I agreed to a free speaking engagement on a Saturday to talk about a topic that I don't even care about, and I ended up missing my daughter's first ever swim class. Sadly, there are so many more examples from my past where I betrayed myself in hopes of becoming universally liked. Simply put, that is just not the way to live a meaningful life. And speaking of meaningful lives, do you know what Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and even Jesus had in common? They all had people who didn't like them. A lot of people in some cases. If those people couldn't achieve the impossible goal of being universally liked, what hope is there left for you and me to do it? Here's why the need to be liked is so toxic. It makes you a prisoner to other people's opinions. It forces you to constantly monitor and adjust your behavior based on what you think will make other people approve of you. It transforms you from being an authentic human being into a people-pleasing performance artist. When you need to be liked, you can't tell the truth when the truth is uncomfortable. You can't set boundaries when boundaries are necessary. You can't stand up for what's right when what's right is unpopular. You become so focused on managing other people's perceptions of you that you lose touch with who you actually are. And here's the tragic irony. The more desperately you need to be liked, the less likable you actually become. People sense desperation from a mile away and it gives them the ick, as the kids say nowadays. Authentic connection happens when people feel like they're interacting with a real person, not a carefully crafted persona designed to win approval. So, your first kind of strategy of the episode is this: identify one situation in your life where you're currently compromising your values or your boundaries because you need someone to like you. It might be staying silent when a colleague makes inappropriate comments, or saying yes to requests that you should decline, or pretending to agree with opinions that you actually find to be problematic. This week, practice wanting their approval without needing it. Notice the difference in how you feel and how you show up when you're operating from a want versus from a need. Remember, you can still be kind, considerate, and respectful while maintaining your authenticity and your boundaries. However, a very important side note: to be clear, painfully clear, this isn't about being the person who says, I don't give a damn if people don't like me or not. Sorry, not sorry. And then use that as a cover to be an insufferable ass to everyone you meet. This is about being kind while having boundaries, choosing self-respect over chasing approval, and most of all, wanting to be liked without needing it. Now, let's talk about the second need that's destroying your peace: the need to be right. This one is particularly insidious because our culture often rewards it. For some reason, we celebrate people who are never wrong. We admire those who can win debates, and we've created a social media environment that turns every disagreement into a battle for intellectual supremacy. But here's what the need to be right actually does to your relationships: it kills them. When you need to be right, every conversation becomes a competition. Every disagreement becomes a threat to your identity. Every time someone challenges your perspective, your nervous system activates as if you're under attack because in your mind, you are. The need to be right transforms dialogue into debate, curiosity into defensiveness, and learning into warfare. It makes it impossible to have genuine conversations because you're not listening to understand, you're listening to find ammunition for your rebuttal. I see this playing out everywhere. You do too. Couples who can't resolve conflicts because both partners need to be right, but who forgot to pay the electric bill. Families that can't discuss politics because Uncle Bob needs to be right about his conspiracy theories and Aunt Susan needs to be right about her opposing views. Workplaces where good ideas die because someone needs to be right about their inferior solution. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface, though. The need to be right is actually about the need to feel safe and to feel worthy. We think that if we're wrong about something, it means that we're stupid, foolish, or somehow less valuable as human beings. So we defend our positions like our lives depend on it because emotionally, they do. But this is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be human. Being wrong doesn't diminish your worth, it reveals your humanity. The smartest people I know are the ones who are wrong about things regularly, and they've learned to wear the mistakes as badges of growth rather than shame. The need to be right also prevents you from learning. When you need to be right, you can't afford to be curious about perspectives that challenge your existing beliefs. You can't ask genuine questions because questions might reveal information that proves you were wrong. You become intellectually constipated. Picture that for a minute. Unable to process new information that doesn't confirm what you already believe. Think about the most insufferable people you know. I'm sure this wouldn't take too long. I guarantee that most of them have a near pathological need to be right about everything. They're the people who can't let a small factual error slide without correcting it. They're the ones who turn casual conversations into lectures. They're the ones who would rather win an argument than preserve a relationship. So here's your second kindness strategy of the episode for the next week. Practice being wrong gracefully. When someone corrects you about a fact, resist the urge to defend or minimize your error. Instead, say something like, hey, thanks for the correction. I was wrong about that. Also practice saying, I don't know, when you actually don't know something instead of pretending or making something up. Notice how liberating it feels to admit the limits of your knowledge instead of pretending to be an expert on everything. Most importantly, in your next disagreement with someone, practice genuine curiosity. Instead of building your counterargument while they're talking, ask questions to understand their perspective better. You might discover that you can learn something valuable even from people who you disagree with. Remember, the goal isn't to become someone who never has opinions or agrees with everyone. The goal is to be someone who values truth and understanding more than the need of being right. Hey, fellow kindness extremists, it's me, Shola. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're mowing what I'm growing, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in. Okay, I'll stop. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, I would love it if you would take a moment to hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. Those incredibly kind acts go so far in helping me to reach as many people as possible who will join the movement to actively create a kinder world. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Okay, let's get back to the episode. The third toxic need that's destroying your peace is the need for everything to be easy. This might be the most dangerous one of all because it's disguised as something positive. We live in a culture that's obsessed with hacks, shortcuts, and instant solutions. We want the 6-minute abs, we want to get the get rich quick scheme, and we want the magic bullet that will solve all of our problems without requiring us to do any actual work. But here's the truth that no one wants to hear. Anything worth having requires effort, serious effort. Meaningful relationships require work. Financial security requires discipline. Personal growth requires discomfort. Creating positive change in the world requires persistence in the face of obstacles. When you need things to be easy, you become allergic to struggle. You avoid challenges that would help you grow. You quit when things get difficult instead of pushing through to break through. You choose comfort over growth, convenience over character, and instant gratification over long-term fulfillment. The need for things to be easy also makes you incredibly fragile. When life inevitably presents you with difficulties, and it will, you don't have the emotional or mental muscles to handle them. You haven't built up your resilience because you spent your energy avoiding challenges rather than developing the skills to overcome them. I'm a huge fan of Stoic philosophy, so I gotta drop this on you real quick. The Stoic philosopher Seneca says it so well. Quote, "I judge you unfortunate because you have never lived through misfortune. You have passed through life without an opponent. No one can ever know what you're capable of, not even you." End quote. I see this everywhere in our culture. People who want to lose weight but won't change their eating habits or exercise consistently. People who want better relationships but won't do the work of communicating honestly or addressing conflict directly. People who want to make a difference in the world but won't engage in the difficult, unsexy work that actual change requires. Here's what's particularly tragic about the need for things to be easy. It robs you of the satisfaction that comes from overcoming challenges. The best moments in life, the ones that give us the deepest sense of accomplishment and meaning, come from doing difficult things well. When you need everything to be easy, you miss out on those moments entirely. And if that wasn't enough, here's another downside to chasing the easy path. Needing things to be easy also makes you so vulnerable to manipulation. Scammers and con artists thrive on people who need easy solutions. They promise effortless results because they know there's an inexhaustible market for people who want to skip the work. But more insidiously, this makes you susceptible to any message that tells you what you want to hear rather than what you need to hear. This means you'll choose the comfortable lie over the difficult truth, the easy path over the right path, the quick fix over the lasting solution. Let me be clear. I'm not advocating for unnecessary suffering or making things harder than they need to be, because your boy is not about that life at all. I'm talking about accepting that worthwhile things often require sustained effort, and that your ability to persist through difficulties is one of your greatest assets as a human being. When you embrace difficulty as a natural part of growth, something magical happens. You become anti-fragile, as Nassim Taleb says in his book of the same name. Challenges don't break you, they strengthen you. Obstacles don't stop you, they develop your problem-solving skills. Setbacks don't defeat you, they teach you resilience. Your third kind of strategy of the episode is this. Identify one important area of your life where you've been seeking the easy path instead of doing the necessary work. It might be your health, your relationships, your career, or your personal development. This week, commit to doing one difficult but necessary thing in that area every day. If it's your health, maybe it's exercising when you don't feel like it or preparing a healthy meal instead of ordering takeout. If it's your relationships, maybe it's having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding or doing something thoughtful for someone without expecting anything in return. The key is to start small, but be consistent. Don't try to transform your entire life overnight. Instead, build your tolerance for difficulty gradually. Each time you choose a harder but better path, you're developing the mental and emotional strength that will serve you for the rest of your life. Remember, the goal isn't to make your life unnecessarily difficult. The goal is to become someone who can handle difficulty with grace and even find some meaning in the struggle. Let's recap the 3 toxic needs that are destroying your peace and the strategies to overcome them. First is the need to be liked. This toxic need turns you into a people-pleasing performance artist who sacrifices authenticity for approval. The antidote is to practice wanting people's approval without needing it, maintaining your values and boundaries even when it might make someone uncomfortable. The second is the need to be right. This toxic need transforms every conversation into a competition and prevents you from learning and growing. The solution is to practice being wrong gracefully, asking genuine questions instead of building counterarguments, and valuing truth and understanding over the need to be right. Third is the need for it to be easy. This toxic need makes you allergic to the very challenges that will help you grow and creates fragility instead of resilience. The remedy is to embrace difficulty as a natural part of growth and consistently choose the harder but better path even when you don't feel like it. Here's what I want you to understand. These toxic needs are not character flaws that you should be ashamed of. They're human tendencies that we all struggle with to some degree. The difference, and it's a significant one, between the people who thrive and the people who suffer is not whether they experience these needs, but whether they recognize them and choose to act from a place of strength rather than from a place of desperation. When you free yourself from the need to be liked, you become authentically likable. When you release the need to be right, you become genuinely wise. When you stop needing things to be easy, you become truly strong. The world doesn't need more people who are driven by toxic needs. The world needs more people who are free from those needs and can therefore show up authentically, listen genuinely, and persist courageously. That's the kind of person who can create real change. That's the kind of person who can build meaningful relationships. That's the kind of person who can live with peace and purpose. And as we both know, these days, we need as many of those people as possible roaming these streets. This is your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa, and you now know that kindness can't be weak because you've just experienced the strength of the Kindness Extremist Podcast. Until next time, my friend, the journey to a kinder world continues. Thank you for listening to the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I have one favor to ask. If you could kindly hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and a review, not only would that be incredibly kind, but by doing so, you're actively playing a role in growing this movement and ideally getting us one step closer to creating a kinder world. I hope to see you next week for another episode of the Kindness Extremist Podcast. Bye for now.